You go on a first date with someone, what habit or characteristic is a deal breaker? Repeatedly interrupting me when I'm talking, especially when I'm answering a question they asked. It tells me they're not actually engaged in what I'm saying. I know a girl who asks every guy she goes on a date with what his credit score is. She wants to make sure they're financially stable. Also, she's 23 and doesn't know how to pump gas. Self-deprecating to the point where everything needs to be somehow connected in a negative way back to yourself. Like literally everything. While chatting it's even more obvious, sad faces all the time, I'm dumb, I don't deserve what I've achieved, etc. If they are hard to talk to, might not make them a bad person, but obviously there is no chemistry if all I get are one-word answers where they also don't reciprocate questions. So you're a teacher, right? Yep. Well, that's cool. What grade? 2 ND. Aw, what a great age. That's like the perfect time cause kids still kind of like school. Uh-huh. Check please. Reply. Being a know-it-all. I had lunch with someone who called the table salt sodium chloride and used the bread as a way to tell me everything he knew about complex carbohydrates, some of which wasn't even correct, and their connections to evolutionary theory. Just felt like he was compensating for something. Getting so drunk on the first date that you can't figure out Uber and I have to drive you home. No, you can't stay on my couch, I don't know you. Too much discussion about money. On their phone the whole time. If you can't disconnect for an hour or so to engage with me, then it's not going to work. Right? I'm on a date as I'm reading this entire thread and I can't believe how much of it I agree with. This botch keeps tutting and clearing her throat loudly and I don't know why. Learn some manners. They talk over me and spend the conversation giving me unsolicited advice about how to live my life. Edit. I feel like I need to specify that I was thinking of one specific first date that did not become a second date when I answered this, lol. The guy didn't like that I had dyed my hair blonde at the bottom and spent a lot of the date telling me about the dangers of bleaching your hair and how I should learn to make better choices. I just wanted to have a good dinner, man. Constantly talking about their exes. I feel like there's a balance needed. For my and I, we were upfront about weird issues we brought with us from past relationships. Everyone has baggage. You gotta be able to talk about it so your new boo won't be confused when something unimportant, to them, stresses you out completely. I know there are things that would have really annoyed me, boo, because we talked about our past relationship issues. It was a lot easier to grow past it and be better with one another. Edit. To add some context, yes, it was our first date. We also live in NYC, so my theory that the city makes everything move at a quicker pace, even tough conversations about communication and emotional boundaries. I was once set up to go on a blind date with this girl. We were given each other's email addresses and so I hit her up, we exchanged a few pleasantries, then set up a date/time to finally meet. The day of, I get an email from her in the morning with an attachment. I open up the attachment and there is a questionnaire with like 25 to 30 questions on it. She requested I kindly fill out the questionnaire before we meet. I quickly reviewed the questions before sending her a reply saying that it's probably best we don't meet. I don't know what characteristics she embodied, but I'd say that was a deal breaker. The amount of guys who think negging is a good flirting technique is ridiculous. Contrary to what you read on WikiHow, insulting a girl doesn't make her want to impress you, it just makes her realize you're a dick. One guy I matched with on Tinder asked me for my Snapchat and when I gave it to him he said, "Oh, I don't want it, I'm not attracted. Wouldn't want to go on a date or anything disgusting like that." He was trying to flirt but it was an instant turn-off. I'm not here to be insulted or put down, and being rude isn't cute. Lying about their appearance. Very specific app example, guess which one? But you see their pictures, they look nice and then they are different in person. What's the point? As a rule, if they have dog ears, a butterfly halo, or are puking a rainbow, what you see isn't what you'll get. Lying. Even, if not especially, about small things. I was once told that someone had gone down a hill on their bike so fast a speed camera clocked them at 234 miles per hour. Ignoring that that's faster than the world record on a bike. Why? Why are you making this up? Zero opinions on anything. If I'm going to date someone, I want some sort of brains or a passion going on up there. I had this happen with a girl I was talking to 3 years ago. She seemed to have no passion about anything, and honestly it seemed like she didn't have any personal opinions. Conversation would go something like this. Me, what are you majoring in? Her, history. Me, What time period are you interested in? Her, none really, just studying it because my parents said I would probably like it. Me, what sort of job are you hoping to get at or graduating? Her, my parents said I'd make a good teacher, so I'll probably look into that. Whenever I asked her a question, the answer about why she liked something, or her interest, or an opinion, she would always talk about it as if it was someone else's idea or opinion, and it always seemed to be. Hygiene, in general. Edit, yes, you guys. Lack of hygiene. I was on a double date with this one girl. She seemed really cool and I was having fun on the date. Then she stuck her pinky in her ear to scratch and pulled out some earwax. That was a little gross. But then she ate the earwax. I decided right then to not go on a second date. I don't hate people who smoke particularly, but my parents smoked so much that I promised myself to never date someone who smoked. I used to smoke. I have been smoke-free for 3.5 years now. It is amazing how different I smell, and how I never noticed. I don't know how non-smokers put up with being around me smoking all the time. One of my best friends casually began to date one of my ex-girlfriend's friends. He was really starting to like her and took her out on consistent dates, a few sleepovers, etc. My ex-girlfriend told me this girl was texting her about her date with my friend later that night. My ex asked her if she was into him as much as he was, her. Her literal response was no, but free food is free food. I was hurt for him. Devastated. I didn't want him to feel what I felt, and I wasn't even the one dating her. I took my friend, roommate at the time also, aside that afternoon and asked him to please delete her number and never talk to her again. I didn't say why. I just asked him to trust me and to please stop seeing her. It's for the honest best. Knowing me for years and years, he politely accepted my request and deleted her, without question. He knew I knew something and understood I was helping him avoid emotional pain and disappointment. He is too nice of an individual to experience that. Trust goes a long way. Heavy breathing, open-mouthed chewer or close-minded. For me, during at least some point during a first date, I think hobbies or passions are brought up. I really don't care what hobbies you have. You could be into the dumbest shit ever. As long as you are into something. Anything. My red flag is when she says she goes to bars and clubs. And thinks that's a hobby. I nope the fuck out. One-upping. Edit, when I lived in the Midwest it was literally just part of the culture. Telling stories and being one-upped was something you were desensitized to. I ran into a wall once I moved west where people pointed out that I did it, so I stopped. Now when I go on dates I usually get into things people are passionate about. If it's all about one-upping experiences then it's goals and meaning based on other people. Big turn off. There are a lot of people my age that are essentially living at a speed like Justin from Parks and Rec, and it's a shame. I learned and appreciated so much more slowing down and being present for things alone. The Midwest is also rampant with superlatives. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen, scariest thing that's ever happened to me. Really? Having your online banking freeze with the wrong balance on it was the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? Fuck off. Don't one-up on dates. Hearing how your trip to Cali for Coachella was the best experience of your life and how Diplo was the most amazing thing you've ever seen is not what I want to hear when I ask about your future at Purdue studying liberal arts. Referring to going to the restroom as going make tinkles, I wanted to leave on the spot. I will not text you back if you text lictus. If they're going out with me, that's the deal breaker right there. Shows severe lack of judgment on their part. Dirty clothes. Not showered. Dirty car. Loud booming voice so everyone can hear your conversation. Bad tipper. Being rude to servers. Why has no one mentioned they litter? I was surprised I had to scroll this far to see this. I was with a guy in his vehicle on our way to my place. My intention was to have him come in and watch a movie, but that changed when he tried to throw a ton of garbage out of his window. I said no, just keep it in here and when we get to my place I'll dispose of it. Can you believe he actually got mad at me for asking him not to litter? WTF. Ended up finding out a few weeks later he had a boyfriend at the time and knew who I was before we met because he happened to be the guy my ex cheated on me with. What a mess, smiley face. I've shared this recently, but one time I was out on a first date with this girl I met online. I thought she was very attractive and we seemed to hit off well through texts. We're at this bar and she suggests we play a people watching game where we try to make up backstories for the other people there. I thought it sounded fun, especially since I played a similar game with friends on the train sometimes. Plus it felt like a good icebreaker to get us talking. Well, she managed to take all the fun out the game by being ridiculously cruel in all her assumptions for no real reason at all. It felt like she was projecting issues she had onto these people. Like one guy was sitting at the bar alone, could have been waiting for someone, you never know, but because he was alone he was a rucking loser with no friends that hates his life. Completely killed the mood and I lost interest in her after that. Couldn't see myself going on a second date with someone like that. LMFAO, this sounds like a great scenario for a sitcom, start off slowly but get progressively more and more depressing with every guess.